If someone walked up to you in the street and asked you, what is your favorite Wrath of the Lich King zone, what would you say? Would you say it was Icecrown adventuring with the Argent Crusade to take the fight to the Lich Man? Would you say it was Grizzly Hills with its relaxing music and nice atmosphere? Would you say, why are you in my house? Please get out, it's 3 a.m. Would you say it was Crystalsong Forest? Probably not. Most people wouldn't, because Crystalsong Forest kind of just exists as a holding cell for Dalaran. There's no quests, there's no content, there's NPCs that make no sense, but otherwise, it just kind of exists there. But why is that the case? Well, today we're going to explore why Crystalsong Forest is empty. First, we're going to look at the old lore and see if there's any clues in there that can indicate why this zone is kind of empty. Then we're going to look at its current state as of Wrath of the Lich King and see if there's anything in there that indicates why there's no quests or anything else going on in the zone. And finally, we'll kind of look at some external resources and books and see if there's anything there. And we'll put all of this together to come up with our answer as to why Crystalsong Forest is a zone with nothing going on in it. Let's start with 10,000 years ago. This is before Azshara did the big boom. The zone was known as Moonsong then. And all of the elves of that time would take all of their magical relics and powerful artifacts and send them up there to the city of Shandaral. And for a good while this is happening, so elves are moving here, the city's getting pretty big, there's a lot going on. Then Azshara does the thing, blows up the world, and these guys are cut way off from all the other elves. And they don't have any kind of font of power now, and elves love their fonts of power because it gives them their immortality and their power and all of that stuff. So these guys are struggling. So for 4,000 years, these guys are wandering around the forest, just scavenging, barely clinging on to life, trying to find anything to give them that little magic fix that they need that they lost when the Well of Eternity blew up. They're clinging on, but it's not looking too good. Then they see the blue dragons do something, and they say, wow, that's a good idea. The blue dragon crystallizes some form of life and then absorbs its magic essence, and the elves are like, wow, if we could do that, all of our problems would be saved. We would have magic again. And the elves say that they want to learn how to do that too, but instead of being reasonable and talking to the blue dragon and saying, hey, how did you do that? Can you teach us how to do it? No, instead, they go raid the Nexus and steal the information to cast that spell. But while they're in there, they also steal a bunch of relics because they're greedy. And this upsets the blue dragons, obviously. The blue dragons are like, what are these little weird ants doing in our cellar? Get out. So the blue dragons go and charge Moonsong, and the elves are aware they're coming and prepare a magic nuclear bomb. They all get on top of a big hill and they start channeling a spell together, all holding hands and chanting. And their plan is to take the spell and crystallize a ton of the forest and then use that to shoot a giant missile at the dragons and blow them up. And it kind of works, but it backfires. It works too well. It explodes, and half the forest has turned to crystal. Most of the living things are crystallized, and those that aren't are transformed into half-living crystal monstrosities that still roam the forest to this day. The Unbound. There's satyrs, there's nymphs, there's treants, there's some other stuff. Now, the blue dragons, on the other hand, they saw this coming because they're the masters of magic on this planet and can totally sense something big is happening. So they just turned around and left, and the elves just kind of blew themselves up for no reason. And this is how the zone became all crystally, and I guess Crystalsong Forest instead of Moonsong. So maybe there's some kind of like radiation from the crystals that prevents us from doing anything there, getting on the ground. Maybe that's why Dalaran's floating. No, that's not it, because there are a ton of NPCs in the zone, staged and ready for stuff to happen. So let's take a look at some of them. On the west side of the zone, that's where it's not crystallized, so it's what the whole zone would have looked like before. You can see a little camp of Kirin Tor protecting a teleporter up to Dalaran. You can also see this little section over here with blue dragonflight. And these guys have some surge needles set up and they're sapping the power from one of the trees here. So it's clear that they set this little thing up here. But why they're here isn't super clear. Obviously, if you read the lore, you know that the blue dragons and the Kirin Tor are at war. But why they are specifically here isn't really explored. As we move through the zone, you see Elven Ruins, and then you get to the crystally part where you see all of the Unbound, the half-crystal monstrosities that were created from the big explosion. And then you see the Sun Reavers and the Silver Covenant kind of hanging out on the north and south sides of the zone, kind of staring each other down. And so these are essentially Alliance and Horde for gameplay purposes. So you would think, oh, well, maybe there was a battleground supposed to be here or something else going on, but there's nothing. There's no quests. There's nothing to really explore here. It just kind of exists. And then, of course, there's Dalaran floating up above the zone, kind of staring down at everybody else. But We'll get to that in a little bit. And one quick little story before we move on in this investigation. When I was first playing Wrath the first few months as a younger person, I wanted to go to Dalaran because somebody told me about it, but I didn't know how to get there, and I did not know there were quests that would teleport you up there all over the place. So what did I do? I ran all the way into the Crystalsong, stood under where Dalaran is, and just said, where is it? Because my computer was so bad, I literally couldn't look up and see Dalaran. So it took a while before somebody was like, hey, go click on that teleporter, it'll take you up there. And then I was in Dalaran. But obviously, there's not a lot of reasons that the zone is devoid of content, and it looks like there's a lot of breadcrumbs set up to actually be content. So why isn't there anything else here? Let's look at some books and some other external resources now, and this is going to give us our answer. First, we're going to look at the Art of the Wrath of the Lich King book, which has a big quote that kind of explains some of the story that isn't really explained in-game. The quote directly says, "Before the Sundering, highborn night elves lived in Crystalsong Forest and protected its trees with powerful sorcery. Today, blood elves and high elves fight over the highborn ruins. The forest is also the front line in the battle between the blue dragonflight and the Kirin Tor, who recently relocated their city to Dalaran to float above Crystalsong Forest." So now we have some answers as to what some of those things are. We have the reason why blue dragonflight has a little camp over here. We have the reason why the Sun Reavers and the Silver Covenant are staring each other down. They would have been fighting, but why aren't they? Why is nothing going on here? There's a bunch of stuff set up, but it's just been abandoned, seemingly. Or not, because there is a Q&A Twitter thread from 2010 that explains why nothing is going on in Crystalsong Forest. Blizzard essentially said they would have loved to have Crystalsong Forest happen. It would have had the Argent tournament in it. It would have had other stuff going on, but Dalaran was too much of a resource hog, and they just could not put anything else here. If they put anything else here that would draw more players, it would just bog the servers down, and so they had to avoid doing that. That's why the Argent tournament moved up to Ice Crown, and nothing's really going on here because Dalaran was essentially all of the resources that this zone had. And so now for all eternity, we have the blue dragonflight and the Kirin Tor staring each other down on one side of the zone, and the Sun Reavers and the Silver Covenant staring each other down on the other side of the zone. And it'll never be resolved. I guess it kind of is because of lore that happened afterwards, you know, a little bit of Jaina genocide, and the blue dragons are our friends now. But that's it. Dalaran ruined Crystalsong. A bit of a different video this week. I'm on camera and stuff like that. I kind of wanted to do something like this for a while, so if you enjoyed this or you thought it was good or whatnot, let me know in the comments or just by liking the video. Also, there's a Discord now. I didn't mention it in any videos yet, but if you want to join the Discord, we have a few channels in there. We kind of hang out and we post about achievements and mounts and stuff like that. And if you do like the Achievement Man stuff, that is still coming. I just had some audio issues this week, so I had to produce a video a bit quicker than normal because I didn't have the whole week to work on it. But if you go to my stream, that's where I stream. I will always be streaming achievements there for the most part. So if you want to watch that stuff happen live, the Twitch link is also down in the description. Thank you for watching. I love y'all, and I will see you in the next video.